All right, welcome to the Young Turks, everybody. This is a tragic day. So normally I don't come in on Wednesdays in the first hour, but today is different, obviously, because of the huge news, which we're going to get to in a second. We do have a full show for you guys, a lot of different things. Normally Kamala Harris coming out to attack Joe Biden would have been huge news. It isn't as much anymore, but we will get to some of that news later in the program. For now, Jane Cougar, John Iderola, Sharon Reed with you guys. Thank you, all of you guys, for showing up, obviously, and doing this. So we're gonna let me actually start the Charlie Kirk story, and then I'll hand it off to you guys to give the details. Okay. So Charlie Kirk was shot and killed today. I can't believe he's dead. I can't believe it. I saw the video. I don't want you to see the video. He got shot in the neck. As we are taping this live, we don't know who the perpetrator is yet. We're going to give you a lot more details in a minute. But I want to start out by saying my heart goes out to Charlie's family. He had a wife, Erica, who I met in one of our appearances together. He has a 3-year-old daughter, or had, and a 1-year-old son. And violence is not the answer. It's never, ever, ever the answer. It is intellectual surrender. It's saying, I don't know how to win with my mind and with my ideas. Instead, I'm going to resort to violence. And that is a form of intellectual defeat. It is obviously immoral. It is, if you are in favor of violence, you are not on the left by definition. Ours is a peace movement. Ours is a movement of nonviolence. If you believe in violence, you are not on the left and you are not for peace. What happened here was an unmitigated tragedy. So we have a lot to discuss here, but let's give you the details of what happened first.
Yeah, it's unfolding fast, furious, late breaking, John, today. Charlie Kirk assassinated, happened at an event at Utah Valley University. As of bringing you this story at this hour, authorities do not have the suspect in custody. Images and videos of the attack are circulating online already. We're not going to show you those images because they are extremely graphic. So you can imagine what went down in Utah Valley University today. University has closed its campus, canceled all classes until further notice. They said Kirk was shot from a building about 200 yards away from where he was speaking. Here's exactly what happened just before Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. Video posted on social media shows the moment Charlie Kirk was shot, the seconds leading to the incident. Kirk was being asked questions about mass shootings in America. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America in the last 10 years, a person asked? Counting or not counting gang violence? Kirk responds right before he is shot. This account, according to the New York Times. Witness named Tyler McGettigan said he was surprised by the lack of security at this event. I was expecting when I got here that I'd have to pass through some kind of security, but that just wasn't a thing. No one checked the barcode or the QR code. There was no checkpoint to get in. It was literally anyone could walk in if they wanted. Not long ago, there was this from President Donald Trump on Truth Social. The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved, admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you. President Donald Trump, a short time ago, perhaps announcing it, Charlie Kirk's assassination to the world. I was watching, monitoring online, Jank and John, and that was the first confirmation of his death. It's just, I mean, we're just talking about him. Of course he made headlines, of course he made news, and of course he reached a lot of young people and had enormous political power and reach. And to think that here we are again.
Yeah, so I want to talk about what should be the left's reaction in a second. But to start with my reaction, I was on calls all day, and so I actually had not seen it until I got on a call and somebody said, well, we understand if you got to go. And I was like, why would I have to go? And they said, Charlie Kirk's been shot in the neck. And I was like, no, I didn't, it didn't compute. Couldn't believe it. And then, I started looking at all the news and trying to figure out what happened. And then I got the notice that he had died. And I'm still stunned. I still can't believe it. So I think that this struck me more. One, obviously I knew him. So whenever you know a human being, it is way more personal to you. But I hope to God that we all have enough empathy that you didn't have to know him to know that this was a great tragedy and terrible. And of course, guys, one of the ramifications of this is that we're now all in danger. There, but for the grace of God, go I. I've been in that spot doing a speech like that, dozens of times, hundreds of times. So what are we going to do here? Is violence going to go break out in America and we just start killing each other? This is terrible. It doesn't get any worse than this. And I don't want to hear anything about Charlie Kirk's views today. That's not the point. And I think part of the reason why it struck me more is because of his age, how young he is. And so many people these days have, like Trump, survived the assassination attempt. And so, I don't know, maybe we started thinking, or I started thinking that it wasn't gonna happen. But it did happen and he's actually dead. And so it's not just heartbreaking, it is a terrible development in American politics. John, what do you think?
Yeah, I obviously have a lot of thoughts. I'm like you, I'm stunned. I mean, I didn't know him, I never met him, but like he's, in a way, he does something very similar to what we do every day. He comments on politics. We've all had death threats. I'm sure we've all had stalkers. There's been events that have been disrupted, scary stuff like that. So this is, in a very real way, like in terms of political violence when it comes to the media, this is like a worst case scenario. It's the last thing you want to happen, and it's a reminder of the dark place we're in America. And like Cenk, you've been covering the news a lot longer than I have, but we've had dark periods in the 12 or 13 years that I've been covering politics. Is by far the darkest time, and in particular when it comes to violence, to the normalization of just like fantasizing about or making light of people you disagree with being murdered. That weird bloodlust that just feels like it's always out there. Memes about invading Chicago, people, I want a migrant to be eaten by an alligator, or maybe they'll be eaten by sharks. It just feels like everything is just steeped in a desire for blood. And it's become so normalized, even with politicians. And the country's dark in a lot of ways, but there's just so much violence. I think that's the thing. Even today, a lot of people are talking about the fact that like there's other shootings happening as this one is being processed. You don't even have time to focus on like this big story as more and more violence happens. And in the area of political violence, like these things happen that should be the biggest news story of the year. And nobody even remembers it like a week later. The CDC was shot up. Barely anyone even talked about that. It didn't even merit government discussion. A state representative in Minnesota was assassinated, her husband assassinated. When was the last time you heard them talk about that in the news? It's just the most normalized thing. And yeah, so it's scary, when you do something like this. And I'm sure obviously we already were worried about stuff like this happening. Like I said, I've been stalked or whatever, but now we have to be, Jake, you do public events, you do events out in the open. You gotta be worried about that stuff. And it's the last thing that you want, anyone to have to think about with everything else going on.
Yeah,
I never met him. Go ahead, Cenk.
No, go ahead, Sharon.
No, I was going to say I never met him, and Cenk's right. So is John. This is not about political views, but we were used to just discussing and opining. And when I first saw the news, I thought, well, he'll be okay. And a Republican friend of mine who's pretty dialed in texted me that he's dead, and I said, well, come on, that's not confirmed. But I feel this loss. Couldn't have disagreed with him more, but it's so tragic how when this happens, the worst, all that went out the window. I'm thinking everything I have in common with this person who has a right to free speech, who has a daughter, some reports say may have been with him. Here's a fellow human being. And I kept looking at the screen saying, this man should be here. This makes absolutely no sense. This man should be here. All of the discourse and the disagreement goes out the window. I just can't believe, even in light of everything else that we've watched unfold, the violence on and on and on, that this has actually happened on this day.
Yeah. So it's interesting you said that, because one of our members on our website just wrote in. It's Teddy Lucy Linda. I didn't like Charlie Kirk at all. That said, it is truly shocking, and truthfully, I'm surprised by the sadness that I feel. My heart breaks for his wife and his two little ones who will never know their father. Oof. At 3 and 1, they're never going to know him. This is not the way. So look, at first I saw a bunch of people on the right claiming that the left was celebrating. I hope to God that that's true for almost no one. And I am positive that it is not true for the overwhelming majority of the left that are good-hearted people and deeply moral, decent people. That is why we fight for nonviolence and peace, etc. But I'm here to shame the people who are celebrating this in any way, shape, or form, who are not, who are taking it lightly, who are attacking Charlie Kirk today. So we didn't agree with them. So what? That you fight that out and you win in the battle of ideas, not in the battle of guns and weapons and bullets and murder and death. If you think that's what the left is, you don't understand a single thing about the left. If you think that's what the peace movement's about, you're very, very stupid. That is the exact opposite of the peace movement. We try to minimize the damage done. And if you're going to whataboutisms, yeah, I know, guys, I know that Pelosi's husband was attacked with a hammer. I know Dylan Roof. I know the guy who attacked Latinos, the guy who attacked the synagogues, etc. I know their manifestos. But what about Charlie? Charlie's dead now. And so we don't know who did it yet, but it would be surprising if it wasn't someone who disagreed with him politically, because that's what he's mainly known for. Or the only thing he's known for. So it is deeply immoral to not be outraged by this. And I hope to God none of us make that mistake. And by the way, now we get to way lower on the priority list. Once you get past the immorality of it, etc., to how stupid it is. So now, not only will you have greatly increased the amount of violence in the country, again, if you're on the left, that's the most counterproductive thing you could do. Number two, you now have millions of folks on the right who almost all have guns, who are in a blind rage today. Okay, so you've now endangered all of us. Okay, third, and John is right, guys. I mean, we just last week or just a couple of days ago, we did a story about all these people who were sending Anna death threats. So these death threats. So if you're not in the media or political world these days, and you might not realize this because it doesn't actually happen that often to the super powerful, to the CNNs, to the politicians. So every once in a while when it does, it'll become like a major news event and they'll all get, go nuts over it, etc. But for us in the trenches, on the left and the right, it's so common. It's so heartbreakingly common that we get death threats and threats on our life and health and etc. So now this person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk has amplified that massively for everyone. So it can't be any dumber, it can't be any worse. And if you care about the politics of it, you've now made Charlie Kirk a martyr. And so it just couldn't be more wrong in every imaginable way. So if anyone on the left is heartless and disgusting enough to not realize the tragedy of this, I'm here to fight them. And through obviously words, rhetoric, politics, whatever you need. But I'm not going to let people go around saying inhuman things and pretending that they're on the left.
Yeah, I think, granted, I'm not as online, but thankfully I haven't seen anyone with like a prominent platform that said anything like that. I've seen comments definitely, but not from people with a prominent platform. But I have like, it's one of the things that I think is most shocking about this is that there's the tragedy that happened, and then there's the fear and anxiety of what could potentially come, which can come in a number of different forms. So as you pointed out, there's a lot of people who like Charlie Kirk that have guns, some of whom are violent people and have obsessed about the possibility of violence. So they might be triggered to do something. By the way, regardless of who it ends up that did this and what their motivation was, I mean, I think everybody suspects, and I think there's good reason to suspect what the motivation would be, and that's most likely what caused it, but it's not always that way. I mean, the guy in Butler was a Republican. Like sometimes people are crazy, sometimes people are narcissistic and want to get in the news. That could end up being the case. I think it's most likely what people suspect. So right wingers could potentially want to lash out. You could potentially have a left winger who wants to do a copycat thing, which is another scary thing. Again, regardless of whatever it ends up that the actual motivation was. And then in the meantime, I think we might have some graphics. So you have some leftists who are making jokes. You also have some incredibly powerful right wingers that are not interested in finding out what the motivation was or who it was. And they're calling for like Chris Rufo, who is an incredibly powerful person. He's calling for an end to the left. Investigations of every left-wing NGO, every group, every donor. I mean, there's a lot of people that are jumping to wanting a war to come out of this. And Trump, of course, has shown a magnificent willingness to deploy the weight and power of the government against his political opponents. There's gonna be a lot of pressure on him to do exactly that in this case, regardless, again, if we ever find out what the motivation was. And so there's a lot of reason to worry about what might end up being done either to leftists generally or to the Democratic Party or to its donors or whatever as a result of this. And there's a lot of people online right now that are not being at all, like they're not keeping their cards close to the vest on what they'd like to see happen.
I'm gonna read 2 comments from our YouTube members. Mojo1 said, I'm a conservative Republican, Charlie fan minus Israel. So if you're wondering why they're a YouTube member, because we do an open-minded, open-hearted show, and people come to us from across the political spectrum, and we try to be as honest as humanly possible. We try so hard to get to the truth and try to be decent, moral people for everyone involved. So I appreciate you being here. But he continues, I don't know what to do. I have a growing vengeance in my heart, trying not to feel radical. So guys, when people that they feel close to, and if you're on the right and you listen to Charlie, put aside our views and politics and policy, but they felt super close to him, and I get that. I 100% get that. Now they're so angry. And can you understand that? Can you feel that? Can you understand if that happened to one of us, how angry we would all feel? It is so important that in a moment like this, that we double down on what the left is supposed to be good at, which is empathy. You have to have empathy for him and his family. And if you don't, you've lost a piece of yourself. You've lost a piece of your ideology too. Our side is supposed to be the side that has more empathy. And so I get that feeling of rage, but we have got to get to a place where you do something productive with your emotions, your justifiable emotions over this, instead of doing something stupid and adding to the problem. If we keep adding and adding and adding to the problem, we're never gonna get to the answer. And Nerd Girl Dragon, another member on YouTube, said, I've been so sickened by the number of people in comments cheering his death. As always, TYT brings me comfort that not all of us have lost our humanity. Violence is never the answer, his poor kids. Look, I don't know, I've seen 1 or 2 comments. I haven't seen a lot, so I don't want it, the idea out there that there's a big contingent on the left that are celebrating this. I think it's got to be a tiny tiny percentage, okay? But unfortunately, that tiny percentage is loud and obnoxious, and they put the very worst face for the left forward. I mean, when you celebrate violence, what does that do? Like, let's say that, I don't know what the motivation of this guy was. We don't even know who the guy was who shot him, right? But if it's, there's many issues that people disagree with Charlie on. But something that was in the news a lot lately was, of course, Israel, right? So how does it help to have one more person dead? That doesn't help at all. That sets us back. That sets us back tremendously. We're the side for no violence. We didn't want anyone dead on October 7th. If your heart didn't break for those 36 Israeli kids who died on that day, again, there's something a little missing in you if you can't grieve for the children. And obviously, we grieve for the 64,000 at a bare minimum dead in Gaza and the 20,000 children dead there. The answer to that is not more death and violence, is not more people dead on the other side. The answer to that is peace. We all have to double down, triple down, do everything in our power right now to get to nonviolence and peace and to empathy. Empathy and love is what solves hatred and war. So, I love this quote. I've always loved this quote from Martin Luther King. Took me a long time and a lot of maturing to understand it. But he said, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can. Because it's true, once you bring in extra hate, all it does is compound the hate that was already there. So it literally hate cannot drive out hate. It could only multiply it. The only way you get past the hate is once you empathize with one another. And once you do, and yeah, to some degree, Charlie and us tried that. A lot of times we failed and we yelled at each other. Sometimes we succeeded and agreed, and then we went back to fighting and debating and etc. But that's supposed to be what we do. We're supposed to debate. We're supposed to disagree. We're not supposed to murder each other. And so now to the point that John made, okay, now what's gonna happen to freedom of speech? Now everybody's gonna be afraid to speak out on whichever side, on any issue. Because if you speak out and you make someone else angry, maybe you're next. So this is, and when societies go more towards violence and less towards speech, I guarantee you that is not a good situation for the left. So let alone the whole country, let alone as I've reemphasized now countless times, the deep immorality of the act itself. But this could lead to crackdowns. This could lead to taking away more rights, etc. So if you're on the left and you do violence, you're the most immoral, counterproductive person who does more damage to our cause and to the cause of humanity than you could possibly imagine. All right, guys, let's take a quick break here. We're gonna have more updates on the Charlie Kirk situation, and we do have other news today as well. So, and during the break, for a lot of you, I'll be reading some of your comments, if you're a member on YouTube or on tyt.com. So stay right here, we'll be right back. Guys, I'm gonna read for members on tyt.com. I'm reading blind, so let's hope for the best here. Tug in the Tubin wrote in, Marty just texted me, it's baseball night with our son, he's not with me. He shared that Charlie Kirk news was so weird because he feels like he knows him from seeing him on TYT. He's sad but acknowledges his views are awful. Yeah, look, that's easy to acknowledge. We didn't agree with Charlie, right, on 90% of stuff. But that's, today is not the day to focus on that. But I understand what you're saying, and that just the very fact of him being on the show and us interacting, yeah, it humanizes someone more, because guess what? We are actually all humans. Yeah, and thank you for your heart being in the right place. Doodle Dragon Imran said, tragic news, don't condone political violence, and we should win together and be alive to see our enemies live to learn that they were wrong. This violence is wrong, we can disagree, but we can live. Peace first, family, violence is not the answer, and to those who would say the right wouldn't share the same sentiment, I share in kind. We are not them. Yeah, even if you think the right would not share that sentiment, okay, that's fine. Remember, guys, also, the few people who are on the left that are doing this today, do they represent you? No, of course not. Do they represent all of us? Of course not, right? So the folks who are on the right celebrated when Nancy Pelosi's husband was bashed in, or any of those other things. They are also not representatives of the entire right. They are also the radical right and the extreme, etc. And we can't let the extremes drive all of us into hating one another and to fighting one another. So, all right, Liberty Isn't Free says, the only thing I care about right now is hearing Cenk, Anna, John, etc. are all protected because crazy people may try to retaliate. Yeah, I understand that. But right now, my main concern is with Charlie's family, but yes, we are going to take precautions. Eclectic writes in, hi all, very sad for a very sad day for American politics. I very much dislike Charlie Kirk, but he did not deserve to be killed. No one should be killed because of their politics. We fight with ideas, not violence. These are scary and dangerous times. Nani Dragon says, my sister went to Utah University for a PhD in creative writing. She said that she feared for her life every day when she entered that campus because they had open carry. I'm not saying what happened to Charlie Kirk was justified. The man preached of how pro-Second Amendment he was, and it's so ironic what he preached ended up killing him. So look, obviously gun control is part of the issue here, and open carry I think is a disastrous idea. But certainly, and I know you're not doing this, it's not the day to say, haha, we were right about that. This is not that day. All right, we'll be back. All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk, John, and Sharon with you guys. John is the host of Damage Report. Check that out every morning, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern on YouTube and on TYT.com. And we're also joined by Devontae Robertson, Angie Wigan, Stop the Stupidity, Estee Flojo, Gabernator 3015, Abu Abdulaziz, and Lisa D, Voice of the Empath. Those are all people who just hit the join button below and became Young Turks members. We appreciate you doing that on any day, but certainly today as well. Thank you for voicing, as Lisa did there, the voice of the empath. And that's exactly what we should be doing today. And appropriately enough, today, coincidentally, I will be doing Operation Hope after the bonus episode for the members. So we'll have the bonus episode and Operation Hope available to the public. So that is at 8:30 Eastern tonight, and that's where Young Turks viewers get together and try to make the world a little bit better place. And they've done some amazing things, and we're going to try to build on that. And today we should talk about hope most of all, and how we can go back to the America that we all love that didn't have this kind of violence. All right, we now have more updates. Sharon, I think you have the updates on the reactions.
Yeah, Cenk, when news broke of the shooting, before it was confirmed that Charlie Kirk had been killed in this, Figures on both the left and the right came out to offer support for Kirk, condemn the shooting. Vice President J.D. Vance wrote this: say a prayer for Charlie Kirk, a genuinely good guy and a young father. Charlie Kirk has a young son, daughter, 3 and 1, I believe. Conservative commentator Glenn Beck stated his daughter was at the event just 10 feet away from Kirk when the shooting happened. David Hogg, survivor of the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, wrote this: horrifying news that Charlie Kirk has been shot. Gun violence, political violence have to effing stop. Charlie, his family, and all the students who had to witness the shooting are in my thoughts. We have disagreements, but we all agree something has to change. Representative Ro Khanna put up this: the shooting of Charlie Kirk at a university is chilling and horrific. Political violence has no place in America. We all must reflect on how we can tone down the anger and hate that has poisoned our politics and be better citizens in a divided and aching nation. Zohran Mamdani, Democratic nominee for the mayor of New York. I'm horrified by the shooting of Charlie Kirk at a college event in Utah. Political violence has no place in our country. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, others wrote Democrats are to blame. Again, these reactions posted before Kirk's death was even confirmed. Elon Musk. The left is the party of murder. Elon Musk. An excerpt from Laura Loomer's immediate reaction to the shooting. We'll put that up. Democrats cannot keep getting away with declaring open season on conservatives. Commentator Nick Sorter wrote this: breaking. The man who shot Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University is reportedly in custody. The left has declared literal war on us. Democrats and their violent rhetoric own this. Representative Anna Paulina Luna wrote this: I'm done with the rhetoric this rotten house and corrupt media has caused. Every damn one of you who called us fascists did this. You were too busy doping up kids, cutting off their genitals, inciting racial violence by supporting organizations that exploit minorities, protecting criminals, and stirring hate. You are the hate you claim to fight. Your words caused this. Your hate caused this. Charlie, his family, those kids, no one deserved this. Enough is enough. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, on the other hand, said Trump was to blame. Political violence, unfortunately, has ramped up in this country. I think there are people who are fomenting it in this country. I think the president's rhetoric often foments it. J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois. And so the finger pointing continues again.
Yeah.
A good number of those written, posted before it was confirmed that Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. He'd been shot, but there was no word on whether he survived this. I guess, Cenk, what do you make of, we always say this when there's these tragedies, is something going to be the one thing that changes this and brings us all together? You know, because again, all I could think about was his mother, of course, his kids, his wife. Nobody gives a damn about his politics right now. They could care less to be used in this ongoing war, political war. So what, is there hope? I mean, I know you're going to do that after the show and join others and do Operation Hope, but is there any hope that can come out of this disgustingness?
Well, it depends on how we all react, right? And so far, a lot of the reaction has been good in that people are being decent and their heart is going out to Charlie's family, etc. Unfortunately, some has been terrible. And so, look, I've seen some on the left that are celebrating it, but they're tiny, loud, annoying, unacceptable group of idiots. I didn't love JB Pritzker's comment there because this is not the time to go tit for tat and go back and forth. I also don't like the right wing, getting everyone riled up about the entirety of the left and all the Democrats as if they did the shooting. They didn't do the shooting. The guy who bashed Pelosi's head in, Paul Pelosi's, he didn't. Somebody that voted for Trump in Missouri wasn't him. He doesn't represent all the people on the right. So, but nevertheless, you have comments like this from Jesse Waters, just happened on Fox News. It's happening. You've got trans shooters. You've got riots in LA. They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate? Charlie would want us to put as much pressure on these people as possible, and everyone is accountable. And we're watching what they're saying on television and who's saying what. The politicians, the media, and all these rats out there. This can never happen again. It ends now. Do you think that helps cool down the temperature, or does that promote potentially more violence? So how does that help? And stop putting words in a dead man's mouth. So I don't know what Charlie would have said about this, and but he can't say anything because some monster shot him and killed him, and so this is not the time to say, okay, all of the left is at fault, all of the right is at fault. Oh, they're starting a war, we should start war. No, that's the exact wrong way to think. This is the time and that goes to Sharon's question, which is, what are we going to do at this seminal moment here? Look, this is not a small thing. This is gigantic. This is one of the bigger things that have ever happened in American media or politics in my lifetime. So are we going to tear each other apart now as a country, or are there going to be any reasonable voices that actually join together on the left and right and say no more violence, no more hating each other? Is it possible? I will try. I'm sure some others will try. Will we win, or will we be washed out in a tsunami of hate? Hard to tell right now. Hate, unfortunately, is winning right now. And so the answer to that is not more hate, it is empathy for both sides. John, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think based on what we've seen so far, and granted, we're only a couple of hours into this, God knows what will happen in a day or in a week. So much happens every day in the period that we're in. I would say that if we assume that the shooter ends up being democratically affiliated or leftist affiliated or whatever, which still has not been established. And I mean, you've already hinted at some potential, albeit a little bit hard to imagine, explanations as to why it might not be. It could be some crazed person that disagrees with them about Israel. It could be some crazed person who's mad about the Epstein cover-up or something. I'm not saying that I think that's likely, but it's not impossible. So many right-wingers have already gone way beyond that to push, as you pointed out, this hatred, this they're coming for us, it's open season or whatever. And I would say that the way that Democrats and leftists have responded should be a model for the response to every one of these things. And we have not seen this sort of response in past, even recent incidents of political violence. And again, who knows? In a month, I don't know. In the past, we've had the president's son doing Halloween costume Instagram jokes about assassins and stuff. Maybe it'll get that disgusting before we're done. But as of right now, I would say people are being incredibly compassionate, which is very much in line with the political values of leftists. And I also think that historically leftists, and especially everyone on our network, has been incredibly rock solid concrete on opposing political violence, which cannot be said about a lot of people online. A lot of people with big platforms being paid big money, some people on Fox News, do not have that attachment to opposing in every instant political violence that we do. I also think, and I know some people are worried that somebody on Twitter is gonna say the wrong thing and that's gonna lead Trump to do something crazy or something. I think we should be compassionate and empathetic because that's how we should be. Not because I think that Trump will do or not do something based on it. This regime is gonna do whatever the hell it wants. And the stuff I referenced earlier in the show about like Chris Rufo saying, shut down every Democratic NGO or whatever. To be very clear, he doesn't believe that now because of what happened to Charlie Kirk. He believed that yesterday. They wanted this war between, like a lot of these people wanted that yesterday and last week. This is now a scapegoat, okay? This is a way to push for that, which is, again, incredibly disgusting to tie to a tragedy that we should all just stop. And as you said, think maybe this could be a turning point where we stop going down this dark path. But unfortunately, right now, even as we're recording this, there are a lot of people that are trying as hard as possible as they can to make sure that we go down an even darker one.
Yeah, so look, we've got an audience that's interesting, right? We've got left, we've got a lot of independents, and we have some on the right that watch us, because I appreciate that they think we've earned, their trust by being honest about all sides, and so I want to give voice to some of the folks in the audience, but I also don't want you to think that everybody in the chat is representative of everyone else, right? So first, Constantine Kaviris, who's both a member and used a super chat today, said, "I don't know if I've ever agreed with Kirk politically, but no one deserves to be killed like that. My thoughts and prayers go out to his family and the safety of everyone on every side of this worsening sphere of American politics." Constantine, you speak for a lot of us on that. Daily Bible Quotes for You says, "Your chat is the one celebrating." Guys, remember, in a moment like this, a lot of people come to the Young Turks to see what's happening in the news and to discuss it together. And yes, some people on the left and sometimes on the right will say terrible things. Don't let that make you believe that everyone on the other side agrees. Stop hating each other. That's what's leading to these problems in the first place. Always Reason wrote in, "Can you understand that? Yeah, 3 Democratic legislators just got assassinated by a right-wing lunatic who had many more on the list. I can't fix Republican rage because they live in a fantasy world." Yes, but today, Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. So we don't know who did it yet, but it's likely someone who disagreed with him. So now both sides have done it. Both sides have done it in terrible, disastrous ways. The answer is not more of that kind of violence. The answer is none of that violence. Last one, David Rodriguez says, "With the horrific news today, please everyone stay safe. Cenk Mehdi, Hassan Pikres, who do public events like this, please be careful. I'm deeply horrified about what comes next, from Trump to mentally ill individuals in the country." But at the same time, guys, remember the right wing is also thinking, "Oh my God, we've got to be safe," because one of their own just got shot and killed. So this is a tragedy and a disaster for the whole country. Last one, Philip Drown said, "I can feel Sharon's heart in this and I appreciate it. Cenk, I could not agree more with every point you've made today. I'm glad you guys are on the air." Well, thank you for all of you for saying that. It's you guys, our viewers and our members, that allow us to do this kind of show. And yeah, we don't fit the mold of, okay, our side is 1,000,000,000% right and our political leaders are amazing and they never do anything wrong. No, there's plenty of blame to go around. And today, the point isn't more blame and more hatred. It's some healing. And it starts, in this case, the onus is on us on the left to show empathy to Charlie, who was on the right, and to his family, because he was killed today. It's our job to show empathy today. And by the way, if the right yells at you and says this, that, or the other thing, you know what? How about we let it go today, okay? How about we say, we're sorry for your loss? Even if that's painful to you, even if they've said something terrible to you. Because either you're gonna ratchet up the volume and the anger, or you're gonna try to bring it down. So please do the right thing and have empathy for them, and don't make it worse. Try in a tiny little way to make it better. And the way to do that is to say our hearts go out to you for your loss. That's easy, should be easy. Let's all do it together. All right, guys, I have breaking news. So I hold on before we go to the break. So breaking news, Kash Patel is saying that they have the shooter in custody. So this just came across the wires. They're not the wires anymore. They're more on social media. FBI Director Kash Patel writes, "The subject for the horrific shooting today that took the life of Charlie Kirk is now in custody. Thank you to the local and state authorities in Utah for your partnership with the FBI. We will provide updates when able." So a lot of you might have seen an older gentleman getting dragged out, and a cop saying, that he said he was the shooter. That turned out to be a mistake. He's already been released. Now they apparently have the actual shooter in custody. So hopefully soon we'll find out why he did this, what happened, how did it happen. But I want all you guys to remember, and Sharon and John, I want to let you comment on the fact that they caught him. But first of all, thank God they caught him. Second of all, I have to say ahead of time, I don't care much why this particular person did it. Why? Because the people who do shootings and attacks and violence are generally mentally unwell. So it's like us going, oh, okay, why did this psychopathic white supremacist go and shoot up a black church in Charleston? Well, partly because he's a psychopath. And so in this case, why did someone shoot Charlie Kirk? Well, mainly because they're a psychopath. Because if you're on the left and you hated his views, you would try to debate him and you would try to prove him wrong. When you kill him, you're saying, I don't know how to debate you. I guess you're right, so I'm trying to shut you up forever by taking your life away. It is the biggest form of surrender there is. It's saying I'm incapable of defeating your ideas. It is a unilateral surrender that disgusts me. It is deeply immoral, and there is no justification for it. And I don't really, like, if the psycho, let's say, surprisingly, very surprisingly, turned out to be on the right, and he was trying to prove some psychotic point from the right, would that make it better or worse? Would that neutralize anything? No. If it's a psycho from the left, okay, does that mean you should hate the left? Well, no, of course not. One psycho doesn't equal 70 million Americans or hundreds of millions of Americans, whether they're on the left or the right. So I'm glad, most of all, I'm glad they caught him, and obviously they need to bring him to justice. So, John, thoughts?
Yeah, that's by far the most important thing. But not only that they got him, because that's the most important, but like there would be fear that maybe he's like one of the other ones, that if he hasn't been caught, maybe he has other names on a list or something like that. And so it's entirely possible that other lives might have been saved by them getting him as quickly as they did. So that's the most important thing. In terms of what we'll find out about him, I always want to know as much as I can. And so for my own personal curiosity, I would certainly like to know if it's political or not. If it is political, then what was the motivation? I agree with you that I don't know how much it's actually gonna matter. I mean, we've seen this play out in the past when it turns out that a shooter was suspected to be a leftist, even if they don't. It's not like that changes anything. The right doesn't change. I mean, I'm sure they'll find some photo on his social media from 4 years ago so they can say that he's trans or something like that. Like the attempt to craft a narrative very rarely has anything to do with the actual evidence. So it's not like you find out and it brings Charlie back or anything. It's not the most significant thing. Thankfully, they got him. I was super worried that he could be targeting someone else, either another commentator or, I don't know, maybe going for Charlie's family or something like that. So whatever terrible things could have happened, thankfully did not.
Yeah, more breaking news. This is also in. Authorities are still searching for a person of interest. The Utah Public Safety Commissioner, Bo Mason, just told reporters. So I don't know if that's conflicting reporting between the FBI and the local authorities in Utah, or it could be, I mean, I very, very seriously doubt that even Kash Patel would put out a statement that they got the guy if they didn't get the guy, right? So that would be a blunder of epic proportions. So it is possible that they got the guy, but not all the authorities are in coordination yet and good enough communication. There's always a fog around these type of events as they happen. Or it's possible that there's a second person of interest that they're looking to find. So don't worry if you're in Utah, just listen to what the authorities say. And at the same time, if some of the authorities are saying there might still be a person of interest out there, also be careful. So Sharon, your thoughts on this?
I find agreement with both of you. I find this whole thing so demoralizing that for the people who are salivating, waiting to find out the motive, I don't know. I'm with you on this part, Cenk. It doesn't really damn matter. If you are someone who is driven to the extreme where you would, the early reports on top of a roof, a sniper shoot a 31-year-old man dead in the neck, you're an extremist. So it doesn't, there's something other about you. There's something crazy about you. And so, well, I just stop there. Hard stop there. I don't care about any manifesto or anything you have to say. It's not going to matter anyway. John's right about that. It's not going to change any minds. It's just this disgusting thing. I don't give a damn about his politics. I just keep coming back to a man, children, wife, family, the things that, if you're lucky enough in this world, all of us have some kind of experience in love. And this is where we are. And I love to argue. You hear me talk about my one Republican friend. I have others. He texted me, I don't have anything to give back in any kind of animosity fight. This is just horrible. It's horrible. And it's a reflection of where all of us are right now. And I think you're right too, both of you, that I think if each of us don't acknowledge and pour gasoline into that toxic fight just one at a time, perhaps it can extinguish a lot of this violence.
Yep. All right, guys, we're going to come back. It turns out a fight kind of broke out over this in Congress today, a verbal one, not a physical one. So I want to thank the people who just joined, N. Nas, Susubub, and Julia Sino. Look, all of you guys make a difference by supporting a show that is doing our best to unite the country, provide empathy for everyone across the political spectrum, and I appreciate you guys deeply. So when we come back, updates about Charlie Kirk's death and how it has affected Congress today. So during the breaks, I read comments from members on Super Chat. Let's go to YouTube members in this case. Lady AF said, "Oh my God, I had no idea I haven't so much as looked at the internet today. I wasn't a fan of Kirk, but I instantly teared up just now. This is absolutely heartbreaking." I appreciate every one of these human reactions. Michael Catalano says, "As soon as I heard this happen, TYT was the only news station I wanted to hear from. The spin is already utterly disgusting, and I'm so glad you guys are here." Dylan Takayama says, "Before this even happened, I was worried about ArabCon. This sets a terrible precedent." Liz Smith says, "RIP Charlie Kirk, we're all less safe after today." Joel Felon says, "Didn't agree with Charlie at all, but this is awful." Felix De Leon said, "I moved to Canada from the US, not only for better healthcare, but to escape the toxic environment America has become." I am super worried about how toxic American politics has become. Super worried about it. And thank you, all of you guys, for having these wonderful reactions where your heart goes out to a family that obviously is broken today. Balk says, "I feel physically ill." Joe S says, "This is absolutely terrible and we need to find unity somehow over this. Who cares what he believed in? All he did was voice his opinion lawfully. I hope we can find a way to come together over this." I couldn't agree more, Joe. Snake says, "We need to be able to have safe conversations about our differences, to find ways to coexist. Impossible when we refuse to speak and to listen. Impossible when people are attacked for it." Yeah, couldn't agree more. Darth Dunedane says, "No one should be celebrating. Stop. Even if you didn't like him, it's bad. This hits home for me. I lost my mom at 2 and graduated from that school in 2022. Wow, wow. Sorry for your loss. And back then, and Yeah, that really does hit home. Tiny Dog Dragon says, we saved a table for Charlie and his wife at several of our locations. I was always frustrated, never did anything. I'm beyond shocked by this. No one deserves this, no matter what. Very true. Katie Cooper says, Cenk, I strongly agree with you. What Charlie Kirk and our progressive left agree passionately is on free speech and the American dream. My heart hurts for his young family. Katie, man, I 1,000,000% agree with you. What's great about America is our agreements, disagreements, our free speech, and our ability to do that without resorting to violence. Sean 1MCC1 says, thanks, Cenk, for being the voice of reason. Well, I appreciate you guys. J Bomb Dragon on Super Chat says, as soon as the news broke, I couldn't stop thinking about you guys. Please stay safe, TYT. Love you guys. The world needs more love. Yes. I couldn't agree more. Lisa D, the voice of the empath, said this is awful and heartbreaking. 00083 said violence is not the answer to a disagreement. We are all less safe. This is absolutely wrong. That's exactly right. Mr. Whisper says we've become a country that has forgotten how to agree to disagree. Well, that's exactly what we need to get back to. We'll be right back. All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, John Iadarola, Sharon Reed with you guys. So check out John's show, Damage Report, on YouTube and on tyt.com. We appreciate everybody who's signing up today and saying all the wonderful things about how we're a voice of reason. Thank you guys, thank you. So the join button's below, tyt.com/join for those of you on the website. Okay, guys, more breaking news about the potential shooters. It seems to be one shooter. We've now had Kash Patel say that they've had him in custody. We had Utah authorities saying that there's still a person of interest. Now Utah Governor Spencer Cox says at this point there is no information that would lead us to believe that there is a second person involved. So he's saying there is not, that there was only one shooter. Still, investigators, according to CNN, are actively looking for people who may have more information about the shooting, according to Cox. And the governor said that the authorities have, quote, a person of interest in custody that is being interviewed right now. So that is your latest updates on the person who might have done it that is in custody. So I'm very, very glad that at least they caught him. All right, now I want to move to more news. All right, in the midst of this horrible, tragic day where Charlie Kirk has been shot and killed in Utah while doing an event there, a fight broke out on the floor of the House. We have the video of it. We're going to show you in a second. Representative Anna Paulina Luna is the one who seems to have started it, for lack of a better way of putting it. So let's take a look at the footage first.
Let's wait a minute. The House will be in order. The House will be in order.
All right, so obviously hard to make out what she is saying or others are saying there. But let me explain who said what to the best of our ability. Getting this from CNN's reporting, Representative Lauren Boebert apparently complained that, quote, silent prayers get silent results. Okay, but wait, after the mass shootings, you guys constantly say thoughts and prayers. So here, I've seen people on the left, including in our audience, saying it, but not 1% sarcastic. Like, really, our thoughts go out to Charlie's family. It's tragic. He has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, etc. So what else should we do? So I don't know what she means, and I don't know what she's looking for. Okay, then Representative Anna Paulina Luna said, "You effing caused this." She shouted to the Democrats across the House chamber. And in response, Democrats could be heard, this now I'm quoting CNN, could be heard shouting back about a school shooting in Colorado Wednesday and a call for action on gun violence. Hey guys, I've got more, but I got a suggestion for those in the House. How about yelling at each other instead of yelling at each other and recriminations back and forth? You guys roll up your sleeves and do something about it. So if you're saying, hey, this is another gun shooting and we think the answer is action on gun violence, then, and maybe that might have protected Charlie's life or saved Charlie's life, then instead of yelling, do something about it, introduce a bill. If you're a Republican and you're super mad about it and you think what would help, you guys always say mental health. Now I'm talking about the Republican politicians. Okay, if it's mental health, do you want to do a bill that gets more mental health funding today? That could potentially be productive. Or do you just want to yell at each other? Well, there's more yelling. As she walked into the Capitol, according to CNN, Luna also lashed out at Democrats and accused them of, quote, getting people killed. As she spoke to reporters, and she said, quote, stop with the rhetoric. You're getting people killed. You're going to get one of us killed too while you continue doing it. Yes, so both sides have to stop with the rhetoric. But I would argue that her saying you caused this is part of the problematic rhetoric to begin with. So guys, okay, no one should have shot Charlie or anyone else for what he said, no matter how much you disagree with it. Also, no one should rile up political violence today to say, oh, okay, so we have to strike back or you caused this, etc. Because then you are doing the same problem. You're saying, oh, okay, if you disagree with, the left disagree with Charlie. By disagreeing with him, they have caused this. So now we should be super mad at all of the left and not just the shooter. Okay, that just doesn't make any sense. So these psychotic shooters, whether they're on the left, the right, wherever they are in the political spectrum, race, religion, doesn't matter. To me, there are two unifying factors. One is, well, they are all shootings. So you can say it's okay, I don't mind, and Charlie was an enormous advocate of the Second Amendment. But it is guns that do it. And so you could say that, okay, yeah, but people shoot the guns, etc. But that is a common theme. I'll just leave it at that. There aren't a lot of drive-by strangulations. And so this mental health is an issue, but we want more funding for mental health. We want red flag laws. We want things not to take anyone's rights away, but to actually begin to minimize the out of control violence in this country. And then the other thing that is leading to this is the nonstop hatred of everyone on each side. Psychos do not represent the entirety of the left or the right. Stop hating each other. The more that our Congress people get at each other's throats, in this case, thank God, only rhetorically, the more the hatred is driven up and makes the situation worse. All right, Sharon, your thoughts on how Congress has reacted?
Yes, it's so stupid. And it's interesting as I think about their first instinct is this, to have a go at each other and to clap back. I can guarantee you that every surgeon, first responder are not just part of the right who tried to work and save this man's life as he was bleeding out with blood gushing everywhere. Their instinct was, we got to do something to help. That's a normal human up close reaction, that instinct, right? If that's not your instinct, then you've morphed into something else and it's not human. It's just not human. These are a bunch of clowns and fools. And sure, I could weight it and say which side is worse, but they're all fools. They haven't been able to get anything done. They've been dancing around the same issues, despite what we, the people, have demanded. All over the place. People who love guns, people who don't own guns, they haven't been able to do a thing. And this, during a moment of silence, is what they're doing? What trash boxes? This is trash. That's my reaction. Trash. And they all need to go. They could go home tonight. And no one, they could turn off the lights and we'd be either in the same predicament or we'd be better off. Trash.
All right, John.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Absolute trash, garbage. Early candidates for garbage person of the week on TDR. They're terrible and they're fake. I mean, as you pointed out, Jake, what they could do something, but we know that they don't want to do anything. Definitely not. They don't care. Like, what is the one thing they've debated on gun control like the last couple of years? Maybe trans people can't have guns. Other than that, they have no interest. But this fills the room and it fills up time and it lets them seem like they care. They love finding opportunities to cosplay as if they care about issues. And so, like trans players in sports or whatever lets them pretend to care about protecting women when generally all they do is strip away their rights. This lets them cosplay that they care about political violence for a little bit. And also it pushes other things out of consideration. And I think it's noteworthy that the particular members of the House that are making the most hay about this, Anna Paulina Luna, Nancy Mace, have been under a lot of pressure recently to do something about the Epstein files. They've been receiving a lot of criticism for wanting to posture as if they care about getting to the truth, but then voting to block it. And so now, is anybody talking about that? I mean, this is a momentous, tragic thing that happened, and they're the most fired up. So, is anybody going to want to pressure them to actually do what they've sworn that they would? I think it's very convenient for them to pretend to care, knowing that they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, so look, to be fair to Representative Luna, and even in this moment, I'm going to do that. She did know Charlie Kirk personally, and so if she, is enraged by what happened to him and is emotional today, okay, I get it. But then we have to get back to sanity, and so look. So some of the Democrats have been saying, look, 3 Democrats were just shot very recently, right? You saw that happen in the news a couple of weeks ago. Okay, but this whataboutism is going to just get us all killed, okay? So instead of saying, oh, well, the Republicans had it coming because some rando psychotic Republican shot 3 Democrats, or the left has it coming because some psycho shot Charlie Kirk. How about we go in the exact opposite direction and say no one has it coming? Let's stop spreading hatred and let's start spreading empathy. And it's okay to massively disagree with someone. Look, we had Charlie Kirk on the show at the RNC and DNC, right? You guys, a lot of you saw that. And so we disagreed on a lot of things. And then we had a couple of issues where we had shocking agreement. We had agreement about, first of all, representing Americans, and he took on the donor class in a way that actually shocked me. I didn't expect that at all. But I would have never found out if I hadn't talked to him. We agreed on banning private equity from buying residential homes because it's driving up home prices, etc. I was really surprised that he agreed with that. But that's because we agreed to be human beings and talk to one another instead of constantly just yelling at one another. And I know that a lot of people on both sides didn't like that. No, I want you to yell at each other. I don't want you to talk to each other. I don't want you to know if you have agreements. And he said terrible things. And on his side, people think I've said terrible things. So what? It's America. We're allowed to say whatever we want. We have freedom of speech. And so if you think he said something terrible, then you fight back with words and you convince people. But you don't fight back with violence. Otherwise, nobody's going to be around to find out who won. There is no winning with violence. There's only death and destruction. So no, I'm proud that I reached out. I'm proud that we have a show that emphasizes empathy, and I'll do it again. And I'm going to do it again and again. And right now, I offer a hand to anyone on the right who's in media or in politics and say, let's come together. Let's find a way to come together so that we don't egg on the worst parts of our nature, that instead we start to spread ideas that come from our better angels and empathy for one another. And remember that we're all American citizens. And we're all in this together, no matter how much we disagree. So I want to end this segment with something very nice that someone wrote in. But the reason I'm reading it is because, guys, on the Young Turks now, we've said this for years. Open minds and open hearts. That's what we're about. And if you have an open heart, a man getting shot in the neck and dying and leaving behind his young wife and his 3-year-old and his 1-year-old should break your heart. If it doesn't, you've lost a little piece of your humanity. Please, please get it back. I believe in you, I think you can. And you do that through empathy and love. And so, and if you're open-minded, you begin to realize that this is not the way. So with that prelude, handled named Zach DeSoto said, Cenk, the honesty of your take has caused me to reflect on my lack of empathy for Kirk and feel some deal of shame. Hadn't realized how calloused I had become. Thank you. Wow. The reason I read that is because I want folks to learn from you, because you saying that in the middle of the show shows how open-minded you were. So yeah, we're dug into our trenches, guys. I get it. Oh, the other side said this and they want to do that and we got to fight back. You're right, we do have to fight back, but through our words and through politics, not through violence, not through hatred. And if you're giving into hatred, you're helping the forces of hatred. Instead, especially today, and by the way, especially if you're on the left, reach out and say to someone on the right, I'm so sorry for your loss. And this is not what this country is supposed to be about. And on behalf of the great majority of the left, I say to Charlie Kirk's family, our hearts go out to you in every imaginable way. We are so sorry for your loss. And God, if we could turn this moment into something that is healing and leads to empathy instead of something that leads to more hatred and more division, that would be amazing. And so we all have to work as hard as we can to try to get to a better place so something like this never happens again. All right, John and Sharon, thank you for joining me in the first hour. Obviously, we didn't get to a lot of the stories we had planned today, but we do have more in the second hour. And we are going to get a little bit more into the news of the day, but we also continue to have more breaking news about Charlie. So John Idarola hosts the Damage Report every day at 1 o'clock Eastern on YouTube and on tyt.com. Sharon's pretty much on all of our shows. Rebel Headquarters is another channel of ours that Sharon is on, so check that out on YouTube and tyt.com. Thank you guys. And when we come back, more of news, more of this news on this tragic day.
What contributions to the progressive cause are you most proud of? I mean, I don't have super high aspirations for a singular role that I can play in the movement or anything. I try to present myself as what I think that I am, which is a progressive man who is driven by a, I think, well-interrogated and well-organized system of values that I try to stay consistent on, and I demonstrate that that's the sort of life that a person can lead and be successful and be happy and all of that. And that should not need to be done, but there are so many people on the right that are trying to push men in the opposite direction that I want to be able to do that. Along the way, if I can get people to care about some topics that they wouldn't necessarily care about, or that for some men they might think that's not a topic that they should be focused on, that's definitely something that I relish doing. And along the way, I mean, we've been able to introduce people to a lot of candidates. That's been a big part of what we've done. You know, not all of them necessarily got in office. Probably most of them did not. And a lot of them you might not even remember their names. But it was great to be able to provide people the platform where they had the chance of, you know, making a difference. Obviously AOC and all that, but there's been a lot of great people along the way.
In the bonus episode for the members, we do some inside baseball. We're gonna look at John's desk. Nice little spaceship here. Nerd, but it is kind of look
Cool. Who has Legos? Oh no.
He's taken apart a keyboard. Who has a mouse pad that's this big? He's got a dog with a nose that you can hang something on. You know what this desk screams to me? Nerd. And that's how we like him. We love Johnny Pie. He's got his own personality like everybody does at TYT. Come meet us all in the bonus episodes. TYT.com/team.
David Sorrell, Anita Turner.
Adam Green drop by.
Charlemagne.
Congressman, great to have you. It's great to be with you, Chuck.
Your show is a great thing. You're informing people. A lot of the shows that I live on, you know, my CNN, my MSNBC, and even Fox, and any of the other shows, NPR, they are so quick to decide that they know what this building means today.
The one thing that I hate that politicians do, you know, they talk about the people they should be talking to.
Do they have any idea that they're the establishment and that they're hated? Or do they not realize that at all?
People are so deeply in their little universe. I think it's very easy to not really question what you're doing.
Voters have a right to ask questions of any nominee, whether they're independent, Republican, or Democrat.
The system is duopoly that suppresses competition.
How is it the year 2024 and we're still like, maybe they'll talk about paid medical? Like how is that like at one level it's like, this is what we're talking about now. You're like, it's 2024.
And that's always been the critique, that your critique of us is, well, you guys give good speeches, you put out good tweets, but you're not wielding actual power. Now we're starting to.
My favorite news platform by far. It's not even close.
It's about a country and a principle, and that's what you and I both work to achieve. And I'm so glad that at least half the battle has now been won.
If you want to go really hear what's going on honestly, you should tune into the Young Turks.
Thanks for doing such a great job. Please keep it up. Hang tough.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
Oh, I like making you happy.
I didn't know about that.
This is a happy Attic experience.
Awesome.
You're welcome, YouTube.
Join the Dragon Squad by becoming a YouTube channel member. Click the join button below or sign up on tyt.com/join to get access to fun emojis, a member-only chat, exclusive shop TYT designs, ad-free watching, and so many other amazing perks. Plus, you get bragging rights for being part of the coolest community on the internet and help us drive real positive change in the world. The Dragon Squad awaits, so join today.
On TYT, Cenk and Jordan Yule with you guys. So we do have other news that we're gonna get to, guys, including Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's huge fight, which would have been massive news on any other day. So we're gonna get to that, but I wanna thank Jared and Lerda Word, who just joined on YouTube. We appreciate you guys. And I wanna read one more comment about the Charlie Kirk situation, and then obviously if we have breaking news, we'll go to that immediately. Gage Foley wrote in as a YouTube member, I have to admit it, I was in the happy about it camp. Then I heard Cenk's take, and you're right, party of empathy, not hate, so I'll cool it. Gage, I wanna thank you from the bottom of my heart for having an open mind and getting to an open heart, okay? We're nobody's perfect, guys. Nobody has all the right reactions at all the right times. That's not the point. The point is to get to the right place. Engage, you got to the right place because you're a good person. And so thank you for doing that, and thank you for being public about it so people know it's okay that if you had a bad reaction to it, as long as like I said, you get to the right place. Last one, Jonathan Boris Johnny said, I'd like to see the vast majority of the chat for seeing the moment as what it is. Violence like this is never okay. I don't know who did it, but it helps nothing and hurts the country. Couldn't agree more, Jonathan. All right, now we are gonna give you some of the more news today. So Jordan, take it away.
Take a look at this. The president says he did not sign it, so I take the president at his word.
I trust what the president said, and the Oversight Committee is looking into it.
Mr. Speaker, do you think the Trump birthday note to Epstein is real?
I don't. They say it's not. It's been there for 4 years, and now it's just come out. I just don't.
So you think really someone might have just forged this somehow?
Yeah, I mean, somehow it's so easy to do. I just don't buy any of it right now.
Have you seen that letter? And
I've not, but I would love to see it like matched with his handwriting.
Yeah,
it just seems really wild. Yeah, I don't want to see it.
On Monday, the Wall Street Journal published the 50th birthday letter that President Donald Trump allegedly wrote to Jeffrey Epstein. You can see that here. It is a suggestive at best note with an outline of a woman's body with his signature at the bottom. Keep in mind that Trump said the letter did not even exist when it was first reported on, but now the letter has been made public and Republicans in Congress are scrambling for excuses. You just saw Representatives James Comer, Jim Jordan, Mike Johnson, Tim Burchett, and Eric Burlinson in that video. But thankfully, there was one Republican congressman who was willing to call out what's really going on here. Take a look.
Is it that Republicans fear Trump so much, but they agree with you privately? How they just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it. That's it in a nutshell. I don't think my colleagues are happy about covering up for pedophiles, but that's what's happening. And it's so sick and twisted. The reason they're doing it is because they're terrified of President Trump's political machine. Not just his legislative affairs folks are reaching out from the White House to every Republican member of Congress who might think about co-sponsoring this. They're getting calls from the political machine that Donald Trump runs. We've got members of Congress who have aspirations of running for statewide office, and they can't win a statewide office in a Republican primary with Donald Trump on the other side. So they're terrified of him.
Now, in that clip, Massey referred to the discharge petition he filed with Democratic Representative Ro Khanna that would make all of the Epstein files public. Meanwhile, here's what Trump has to say about the letter, which, again, he previously insisted was not real. Take a look.
My signature, and it's not the way I speak. And anybody that's covered me for a long time, no, that's not my language. It's nonsense. And frankly, you're wasting your time. All you do is trying to get off the great success of DC and about 200 other things we've done that are so successful.
Benny Johnson, who once pretended to care about the Epstein case, is now parroting Trump's talking points. Take a look.
Allegedly, the Wall Street Journal has produced the lewd Donald Trump birthday card. Oh, yes. Oh, the Donald Trump birthday card that he wrote to Jeffrey Epstein. And just a reminder that the President Trump birthday card to Jeffrey Epstein included President Trump sitting on a typewriter in the moonlight, weeping into his inkwell and his quill pen, writing a poem. Epstein's entire operation was about influence. And would it really be that crazy for Jeffrey Epstein to forge that Donald Trump, this really famous guy, wrote him this birthday letter?
Now, over the past 24, 48 hours, we've seen multiple people who have received signed notes, letters, gifts from Trump show the exact same signature, but the right has now moved the goalposts, Jank, from this letter doesn't exist to, okay, well, it does exist, but that's not his signature. What do you make of this?
Well, first of all, I saw a video from O'Keefe, Veritas Project former head. And I don't trust a word that guy says, but he did an undercover sting operation on somebody from the government talking about how, yeah, the files exist. Yeah, there's tons and tons of information in there. And yeah, we're probably never going to reveal them, right? So put aside everything else about it. James O'Keefe is now outing Trump officials. I mean, don't get it twisted. He's not on the left or anything like that. But he's talking to Tom Massey. Tom Massey certainly is against this cover-up, and he's a Republican. So things are weird. And so in terms of the letter itself, I don't particularly care about it. And so here's what I mean by that. Like, is it likely Trump? Kind of, right? So is that his signature? Yes. Did somebody forge it? Maybe. What? Why? Like, I guess there's a reason what you could find for why, but I really doubt it. And that kind of drawing looks like it's his or whatever. The words, when we discussed it the first time that it broke, as I told you, I think that my guess, but my educated guess based on having tracked them, is that it's more likely that somebody like Ghislaine Maxwell wrote it for Trump. And then Trump said, yeah, that looks good, yeah. And then he put the signature in and et cetera, right? But the Trumps, now it's not as much Republican versus Democrat or right versus left, because tons of voters on the right don't believe Trump and believe that Epstein files should be released, whatever information they have. And most importantly, people should be prosecuted, right? But it is Trump supporters now digging in Capitol Hill going, no, we're back to calling everything fake and hoax, and that's fake, and the signature is fake, and the letter's fake, and everything is fake. Yeah, but somebody actually did harm to those girls. So who are they, and are you ever going to prosecute them? And that's the thing, Jordan, that they don't have an answer for, they can't ever have an answer for, because our government is purposely protecting the guilty.
Yeah, I mean, I think some friends in the disinformation and misinformation space had some questions about the veracity or legitimacy of that initial video from James O'Keefe. Like you said, he has a reputation for manipulating clips or taking comments out of context, or simply just publishing people misrepresenting their own roles or responsibilities. On that clip specifically, I don't doubt that that is actually what's happening, but I don't know if that person specifically is involved in doing this or has direct insight into that type of work in DOJ. But on this, I called this on my show when the Wall Street Journal first published that this letter existed, that I thought the tactic was, don't publish the letter right away, because you're gonna get the initial wave of denials that it even exists, which happened. Then you wait a little bit, and then you publish the letter, and they published much more than just this letter. You saw the whole book, most of the book, and it seemed in multiple instances, everybody knew what was happening. There was even a cartoon, crayon-drawn illustration of Epstein getting rubbed down by young girls in the same panel as him earlier in his life, as it's depicted, giving children, young girl children, balloons and lollipops. It was just very disgusting overall, but they all knew it was happening. And I think for Trump's denial that, oh, that's not my language, maybe Maxwell wrote it, but for me, this is very clearly him. And then again, you saw multiple documents over the last 24 to 48 hours that other people had received. Many of them now turned foes over the course of the last couple decades, but showing the exact same signature. And it looked like this version of his signature was just Donald and then a line at the end, which seemed to come in more personal correspondence. A handwritten thank you note to George Conway, for instance, had the exact same signature. I'm not buying it. I think the right wants to just shift the goalposts. Now they're gonna get handwriting experts involved, but it's just more cope for me, Cenk.
Yeah, and guys, look, I don't know if Donald Trump was a client. I don't know why Speaker Johnson said that Trump was an FBI informant. And I know that FBI informants don't just fall out of the sky. They're usually picked out from among the people who did something wrong. And in order to, not go to jail, they become an informant. But to me, the more important thing is not about Donald Trump. The more important thing is, why is the government, both when Republicans and Democrats in charge, 100% covering up for Epstein, no matter what? And so no one other than Epstein or Maxwell has been prosecuted, even though there are over 1,000 girls who were molested or raped. And we had a survivor on the show just yesterday, okay? And she said, yeah, of course there were other men. So is any Democrat or Republican ever going to prosecute them? And the answer seems to be screaming from Washington, no, we will always protect the predators. We will never protect American citizens. We do not work for you, we work for the powerful. So to me, it doesn't matter much if Donald Trump or Bill Clinton are among the powerful that did the abuse. Yeah, of course, that's terrible and there should be consequences for that. But to me, the most important part of the story is that our government does not work for us and does not protect us. They protect the powerful predators and the people who organized this scheme in the first place. Those are the people that are the most guilty and the one that the government wants to protect the most. And that's the biggest problem of all. Yeah. All right. We got to take a break here. When we come back, Kamala Harris attacks Joe Biden, but also during the break, I'm going to read a ton of your comments about Charlie Kirk, a lot of moving things in there. So stay right here and we'll be back. All right, let's go to our members at tyt.com. Nivet Mailman writes in, I disagreed with everything Charlie said, but this is terrible for everyone, especially his family. I have a 2-year-old son and I couldn't imagine leaving him behind. Yeah, every time I think about the kids, it's so heartbreaking, it's hard to talk about. Hannah Hartman said, TYT is my political moral compass. Thank you for saying that, Hannah. Don Dada Dragon said, Cenk is the only man in America who can lift not only 255 pounds, but also the entire country as well. Thank you for challenging us all, brother. Well, you're very kind for saying that. It's very, very kind. I don't know that I deserve it, but thank you. Sus Pow says, this is why I love TYT, the humanity for everyone. That's the driving force behind the show and it drives every story. It's consistent and I've noticed. Thank you. And guys, you saw our reaction after, this is a different story, but along the same theme. Our reaction on October 7th, we were outraged by what happened and those innocent people who died in Israel. And then we were outraged at what's happening in Gaza now. And that is because we believe everyone is the same. We're all human beings, we all deserve to live, and no innocent civilian should ever be killed for their ideas, for their race, for their religion, for their nationality. And so we're completely consistent on that. Unfortunately, there's people on the left, the right, one country's side, the other country's side, one race or another, they say, nope, violence for them, but not for us. And you should be outraged when there is violence against us, but you shouldn't be outraged when there's violence against them. No deal. I'm outraged by all of the violence and all of the innocent civilians getting killed in every conflict, and now unfortunately here at home. Progressive at 60 said, violence does not fix anything. Charlie Kirk did not deserve to die. I'm so shocked and saddened by Charlie's assassination. This does not make anyone safer. Absolutely. Art Guy said, I dearly hope this isn't the start of a cycle of violence between left and right. I mean, knock on wood, guys. 222, that would be a disaster of epic proportions. Khadija Hussein says, I do not agree with Charlie Kirk, but killing him is wrong. I love you, TYT, be safe. Thank you, guys. Ray of Sunshine said, I met Kirk once at my college's own Turning Point chapter when I was 18. I didn't realize how young he was. I'm 27 now, And it definitely puts things in perspective. But the worrying part, he wasn't even an elected official. It's making an era of open season on those you don't agree with. We can't go down that path as a country to survive. Man, I couldn't agree with that more. The minute that it's open season for everyone, we're all screwed. Tech Nauseated wrote on Twitch, violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. Boy, I've never agreed more with anything. Semperfire Dog says, continue to support the TYT family. Violence is never okay. No Math Dragon said, I disagreed with Charlie, but this isn't right. Stop the violence. Dave Schmidt 311, thank you for gifting subs as always. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan with you guys. Jordan is also got a podcast, Insurgents podcast, and he's on a lot of our shows, Damage Report, Indisputable, Rebel Headquarters, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure you're checking all those out. Lord Plagus02, thank you for joining by hitting the join button below on YouTube. We appreciate all of your support. Jordan, what's the next story?
Take a look at this.
The first debate of the 2024 presidential campaign is now history. The fallout from it is just getting started. Joining us now is Vice President Kamala Harris.
I'm talking about 3.5 years of performance in work that has been historic.
But is that the man who we saw on the stage tonight? Is that the person you see in meetings every day?
I'm not going to spend all night with you talking about the last 90 minutes when I've been watching the last 3.5 years of performance.
This morning, The Atlantic published the first excerpt from former Vice President Kamala Harris's upcoming memoir, 107 Days. And she had some fairly strong words for Biden's initial decision to run again in 2024. It's Joe and Jill's decision. We all said that like a mantra, as if we'd been hypnotized. Was it grace or was it recklessness? In retrospect, I think it was recklessness. The stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. It should have been more than a personal decision. And yet she admits she never urged him to drop out of the race. During all those months of growing panic, should I have told Joe to consider not running? Perhaps. But the American people had chosen him before in the same matchup. Maybe he was right to believe they would do so again. And of all the people in the White House, I was in the worst position to make the case that he should drop out. I knew it would come off to him as incredibly self-serving if I advised him not to run. He would see it as naked ambition, perhaps as poisonous disloyalty, even if my only message was, don't let the other guy win. These weren't the only issues that Kamala Harris had with Biden. But before we get to that, Cenk, there's a lot here in just these few paragraphs. But one thing that stood out to me was people had made this choice. People feel like they had a say in this. I don't know if that was the case, but also the confidence that she seems to think that people had, and there was months of discussion about this. I don't remember there being that long or that big of a window. Do you?
No, not at all. So look, I'm surprised that she's saying this stuff because normally when the Democratic leadership mafia was firmly in charge, this would be a death sentence for your career. And it would be absolute career suicide to have thrown a Democratic president under the bus like this. But that goes to the point, Jordan, about how times are changing and politics are changing. So number one, she feels free to say this and thinks that there will not be ramifications. And in fact, it'll help her if she criticizes Biden in this significant way, right? It'll help her get past the association with him if she wants to run again for president, et cetera. And that's part of the reason why she's doing this. But to me, the number one issue is the bad old days. And that was all the way through her election. And so in that era, Democratic leadership was ironclad and they were a disaster for the Democratic Party. But they never broke ranks. They always gaslit you. It was always propaganda. You were never allowed to dissent. Anyone who dissented, even in the mildest way, was driven from the party with pitchforks. And so could Kamala Harris have shown courage and told Joe Biden that he shouldn't run again? In our world, on planet Earth, of course. Should she have? Of course. Because as we told you on air, it wasn't just his age. It was the jury had come in on him. So his polling was in the mid-30s, which is near impossible for an incumbent to win when they're in the 30s. It's nearly impossible for them to win when they're in the 40s. So anyone who knew politics knew for a fact he was gonna lose. But they all sat there frozen because they were like, this party is authoritarian. I'm not allowed to disagree. I'm not allowed to disagree. I have to say yes to the leader. It doesn't matter if the leader is a mad king. It doesn't matter if the emperor has no clothes. But the ideology, the zeitgeist, and the culture of the Democratic Party at that time was, if you dissent at all, we will ruin your career, ruin it. And we will drive you out of the party and say that you're pro-Trump and you were trying to hurt the party. So no one is ever allowed to disagree with leadership. So yeah, that's why she sat there like a coward and didn't say anything. To be fair to Kamala Harris, find me a Democrat who was not a coward at the time. I mean, Dean Phillips, Marianne Williamson, I ran against him as a protest candidate. We were very clear way before I did that. We did a petition because we didn't want to lose. Before the debate, 76% of Americans thought that Joe Biden was too old to be able to serve as president. Why would you run against 3/4 of the country that says your candidate can't do the job? That is mental. But the entire Democratic leadership, Jamie Harrison, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, all of them were crazy. And I get why they did it. Because they were the leaders, so they didn't want anybody questioning the leaders. But it got so toxic, so disgusting that anytime, like they trot out Dianne Feinstein in a wheelchair. Who did that? Nancy Pelosi did that. Or the person walking, a person who Feinstein had no mind left at all. I mean, the dementia was unbelievable. She couldn't answer a single question. She wasn't there. And it was Pelosi's daughter wheeling her around, going, no, she's fine. She votes this way, she votes that way, okay? So when Biden came around and and Mitch McConnell freezing, this is on the Republican side. And the Republicans are like, he's fine. Everybody shut up, nobody's allowed to question anything. So in that environment, we were heretics for questioning Biden. And would Kamala Harris or any vice president have questioned Biden in that scenario? No way, because they didn't want to be politically decapitated, which is exactly what the Democratic Party would have done to them, right? She wanted to run for president, so she was a good little girl and she followed orders. So on the one hand, I say she's not any different than almost every Democratic politician who bowed their heads to the Mad King. On the other hand, no, don't come crying to us now and telling us, oh, well, there was nothing I could do. No, that was a moment to have courage and you didn't have it. So period. I'm not interested in your fake courage at this point.
Let's get into some of the other things that we saw in this excerpt in The Atlantic. Now, she wasn't a fan of the White House not having her back, and this was a common theme throughout Biden's presidency. When Fox News attacked me on everything from my laugh to my tone of voice to whom I dated in my 20s or claimed I was a DEI hire, the White House rarely pushed back with my actual resume. 2 terms elected DA, top cop in the 2nd largest Department of Justice in the United States, senator representing 1 in 8 Americans. Lorraine Voles, my chief of staff, constantly had to advocate for my role at events. She's not going to stand there like a potted plant. Give her 2 minutes of remarks. Have her introduce the president. They had a huge comms team. They had Karine Jean-Pierre briefing in the press room every day. But getting anything positive said about my work or any defense against untrue attacks was almost impossible. When the stories were unfair or inaccurate, The president's inner circle seemed fine with it. Indeed, it seemed as if they decided I should be knocked down a little bit more. When Republicans mischaracterized my role as border czar, no one in the White House comms team helped me to effectively push back and explain what I had really been tasked to do, nor to highlight any of the progress I had achieved. Now, Kamala explained that it never felt like she could win, and she admitted it stung when Biden barely mentioned her in his Oval Office address announcing his decision to exit the race. Take a look.
I would like to thank our great Vice President Kamala Harris. She's experienced, she's tough, she's capable. She's been an incredible partner to me and a leader for our country.
And then in this excerpt, she writes, but as my staff later pointed out, it was almost 9 minutes into the 11-minute address before he mentioned me, and that was it. I am a loyal person. Harris did also touch on Biden's health and mental state, and this is the one thing she defended him on. Harris still stood firm on the notion that Biden's debate performance was pure exhaustion, not cognitive decline specifically. Many people want to spin up a narrative of some big conspiracy at the White House to hide Joe Biden's infirmity. Here's the truth as I lived it. Joe Biden was a smart guy with long experience and deep conviction, able to discharge the duties of president. On his worst day, he was more deeply knowledgeable, more capable of exercising judgment, and far more compassionate than Donald Trump on his best. And that is a low bar to be sure. But at 81, she continues, Joe got tired. That's when his age showed in physical and verbal stumbles. I don't think it's any surprise that the debate debacle happened right after 2 back-to-back trips to Europe and a flight to the West Coast for a Hollywood fundraiser. I don't believe it was incapacity. If I believed that, I would have said so. As loyal as I am to President Biden, I am more loyal to my country. But still, the same day the excerpt came out, you still have some Democrats championing Biden. While some discussing Trump's broken campaign promises, Eric Swalwell made some comments on Trump's health and said this.
And as far as his health goes, Joe Biden looks like an Olympic athlete compared to the illnesses that he's hiding. Donald Trump is a broken man who has broken all of his promises, and we're all starting to pay for it, and we're gonna be a broken country pretty soon.
Cenk, Olympic athlete. I mean, we're losing sight of what the story is here, but just come on, guys, you can give it a rest.
Yeah, so look, I don't believe anything in her book. I think she's a politician. Again, to be fair to her, they're all politicians. And so when she talks about the age, why is she still defending him on the age? So I guarantee you her and her consultants literally workshopped every part of this book. So they, in this case, they're like, well, if you say that there was a problem with his age, people are gonna say, well, aren't you complicit? You knew about it and you didn't tell anybody. So you have to pretend that there was no problem with his age, that you had issues with him for other reasons. And that's why she writes, oh no, the age wasn't a problem. He was just really jet lagged and blah, 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 right? Otherwise she's complicit. So that's why that's just spin. All of this is spin. Okay, so now you go to, is it true that Joe Biden was a jerk to her? Oh, absolutely, that part is true. And she's only giving you the tip of the iceberg of what a jerk Joe Biden was to Kamala Harris. So look, I got no love for either one of them. I think they were both egotistical, obsessed with themselves and their own careers. I think they both did great damage to the Democratic Party. I think they're both the reason why Donald Trump won. I think they're both clueless. But of the two, Joe Biden is definitely worse. Joe Biden's a terrible guy who's obsessed with constantly burying his own vice president. I've been covering politics now for 30 years. So I've always find it super curious and ridiculous that the president and the vice president don't get along. And that happens in a lot of administrations and a majority of the administrations. And the reason I never understand it is obvious, because you're supposed to be on the same team. And the vice president isn't gonna replace the president. So the president has every, should have every motivation and responsibility to build up the vice president so that they can carry on that mantle. But in my experience, a lot of presidents tear down their vice presidents. And I figured out later in life why that was happening, because they're all egomaniacs. So if anyone is doing slightly well around him. They're like, oh, no, don't, put her down. Leak a bad article about her. So Joe Biden made her in charge of the border, which made no sense at all, with no power. She was not technically border czar, but people called her border czar. The Biden people never clarified. In my experience, in my limited experience with the Biden team, they hated Kamala Harris. They couldn't stand her, and they took every opportunity to take a shot at her. So was that unfair to Kamala? Look, I'm telling you, I got no love for either one of them. But was that unfair to Kamala Harris? Absolutely. Did it make it harder for her to win the race? Absolutely. So to me, there are no excuses. You were the candidate. You were up for a while. Kamala Harris was up for a while when she was doing the right things. We documented it on the show. We showed it to you day by day. Hey, she did the right thing. And look at that, the poll results went up. Told you, do this thing, better poll results. Then she started doing all the wrong things. So it's her responsibility for losing. But is she right that Joe Biden kneecapped her at every turn? Yes. Why did he do that? Because he's an egomaniac that is so narcissistic, it challenges Trump's narcissism. I don't know, I didn't think that Trump could ever have a rival in narcissism, but Joe Biden is that man. He knew that he couldn't go forward. He knew he was in mental decline. Even while he's struggling to pull himself together, struggling to put out a coherent sentence, he's still kneecapping his own vice president, who might be the candidate, because he's one of the largest narcissists on the planet. So they tag teamed, but instead of tag teaming to win, they tag teamed to hit each other and to cause defeat for us, the voters. So they betrayed the Democratic voters, they betrayed the party, they betrayed this country. They're both guilty. I say Biden is more guilty, but Kamala Harris did not cover herself in glory here. And so this is a lot of spin after the fact so that she could run again. And I'm not interested in that either. All right. We've got to take a break here. More of your comments about Charlie Kirk and the tragedy from today during the break, so stay right here. Yes, all right, guys, so let's go to Super Chat. Stop the Madness writes in, I'm begging some of you to plug into your humanity. Charlie Kirk shared his opinion, that is it. He did not actually harm anyone. Think about how you would feel if a commentator you liked were harmed for speaking. So you've got a perfect handle there for this. Stop the Madness, yeah. Thank you, next writes in, I can't understand the mindset of someone claiming to be on the left making light of this. The video is sickening. I mourn a world that felt more stable. Yeah, we feels very unstable right now. Sean 1MCC1 says, Cenk has been great on this. I share his thoughts and feelings on everything tonight. Many viewer comments have been disappointing. I watch this because the panel is truly fair and balanced. Thank you for saying that about our hosts. Matthew Carey says, we cannot lose our humanity. And by the way, guys, remember, a lot of the commenters that you don't like that are doing whatever things that they are about Charlie and celebrating or whatever they are, and I'm not seeing it because I'm on the show. They're not necessarily, TYT viewers. A lot of people came in here today, left, right, etc., to hear different things. And so, but a bunch of TYT viewers have written in saying, no, we changed our minds in the middle of the broadcast. You're right, this is not right, etc. So, but what I'm seeing is the overwhelming majority of the viewers today with terrific comments showing empathy for Charlie Kirk and his family. Matthew Carey adds to that and says, we cannot lose our humanity. Jedi Monk says, so sad, stupid, and evil. Charlie Kirk is dead and it's not right. Even if I didn't agree with him, not even once, I hate this and Gaza and Ukraine. We need love. Couldn't agree more. Joshua Banks says, this wasn't karma. He had no real power. It made no sense to kill him. It makes the country less safe and more of an excuse for a police state. His young kids will always have that video online. Horrifying. I couldn't agree more. Maggie Bowman says, if Charlie advocated against empathy, then all the more reason to lead with it today. Couldn't agree more. Free Men Die Free says, I'm a libertarian. The mainstream right has been way more reserved than expected. The right will not show emotion or mercy if pushed much more. I'm worried about every portion of this country. And Liberty and Guns We Trust says, I appreciate TYT for reaching out across the aisle to libertarians and conservatives. This channel has come a long way from its radical left days, according to him. Charlie was a great free speech advocate, so is TYT. So interesting that perspective is there too. All right, and Kylie writes in, I live in Utah and I'm horrified. I can't believe he's gone. Sending love to his wife and kiddos. The violence is terrifying. And you speak for all of us there. All right, we'll be right back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan with you guys. Jordan's got one last story here.
Democrats in Congress are getting increasingly fed up with the weakness and inaction of Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, according to a report from Axios. They're apparently still feeling burned over Schumer's decision to support a Republican stopgap funding measure that the caucus almost unanimously opposed back in March. And now they're worried he's going to screw them for a second time because the government is once again headed towards a shutdown on October 1st unless Congress can pass a measure to extend federal funding. Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries have signaled they want a reversal of some healthcare provisions in the big beautiful bill in exchange for Democratic votes. Reversing Medicaid cuts and extending Affordable Care Act subsidies have been floated as potential demands, but some House Democrats aren't buying that idea that Schumer will actually stand up to Republicans. According to Axios, their weekly caucus meeting on Tuesday included a vent session about the minority leader. A senior House Democrat said there was mucho anger in the meeting about Schumer and the Senate. Another House Dem said there was anticipatory anger rooted in what went down in March. Schumer was named explicitly. The overriding concern was that Senate Democrats will get cold feet. Schumer can't blank the bed. Several members stood up to tell the caucus that their constituents want the party to put up an actual fight over government funding. But one told Axios, I don't feel a level of confidence about anything right now. Another described the overall theme of the meeting as lots of concern that we aren't sending a message that fights enough. Cenk, this seems to be a common theme for Schumer and Jeffries. They're weak, they're not strong leaders, there's no fight. Why are they still in leadership positions?
Yeah, well, this goes back to the bad old days of the Democratic Party, and we're in the middle of a transition as we speak right now, right? And so there are forces within the Democratic Party that are now rumbling because leadership is so weak that you're allowed to dissent and to potentially offer up other choices. But the bad old days, you could never question a leader. It was the greatest disloyalty, and it was partly because of corporate politics. Because the donor class loved the leadership, and usually it was progressives who would challenge leadership. So then all of the other corrupt politicians would gather together to fight against the progressives, to fight against the outsiders, or anyone representing the voters. But now they're worried because their own ass is on the line, and they're worried that they're gonna lose their seats. And they now realize, hey, it's not just that Schumer and Jeffries are pro-corporate like most Democrats are, but they're also pathetically weak, and that weakness is endangering all of them, their beloved careers, right? The thing that they care most about. So good, speak up. I mean, Jesus Christ, Jordan, we're at a point where we have to tell Democratic congressmen and senators, it's okay. You can use your voice, little Johnny. Speak up. You're allowed to dissent. These guys are not profiles in courage. By now, they should have already been having votes on getting rid of Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. Their pathetic weakness is really inexplicable. There's no strategy behind it. What are they doing? Do they want to just help the donor class? And they're just like, okay, the donors say we help Republicans with tax cuts and chopping up the budget and making sure that poor and middle class people don't have anything. Is it that? Is it that they're just like, I don't know what to do, I surrender? Is that it? I don't, what? Or do they think these idiots, oh, well, Trump won, so we should be more like Trump? No, you should be more populist. That isn't like Trump. That's a completely different thing. But I don't think Schumer or Jeffries understand politics at all. All I think they understand is, give me the money. And okay, I have donor money. I have fistful of donor money. I win. No, you don't win. You have to actually win elections, pass bills. They've never done that. They're not gonna do that. They're totally incompetent. And at this point, when it's this glaringly obvious, for people to like behind the scenes and quietly leak to the press, oh, I am slightly uncomfortable. Not profiles in courage. Get up and dissent and say it on TV, say it on the floor of the House, and start an internal fight in the Democratic Party. That is not a bad thing. That is propaganda that mainstream media and Democratic leadership did. Oh, it's disunity, it hurts the party. No, the Republicans ripped each other to shreds and then they won and they won and they won. Why? Because that battle of ideas leads you to pick someone who is better at appealing to actual voters. Instead, the Democrats anointed a bunch of pathetic losers who kept losing to Donald Trump. So that strategy is wrong. For God's sake, take this dissent and multiply it by 200 and you'd begin to be on the right path. Yeah. All right, guys, we're past time. For the members, we have a bonus episode. We will read more of your comments about the news of the day, including the Charlie Kirk assassination. It's stunning to me that that's a thing that I am saying. I can't believe it. But we also have more news from the day, including tragedies elsewhere in the world. So hit the join button below or tyt.com/join. And we'll see you there.